And a very good evening, everyone. Welcome in to your box seat, brought to you in association with Sweet Lou and, of course, the other stallions standing at Woodlands, the new ones, What the Hill and down by the seaside. Hope your harness racing week has gone well. Of course, plenty to reflect on last week at Addington Raceway and with the build towards the Harness Jewels in about 10 days' time. But sometimes in life, there's more important things than last week's winner or who might win this week. And last Saturday morning, we lost an industry icon in the form of Neal Pilcher. Of course, better known as Pilch around the land, in fact, further afield than that, Australia and around the world. He was an absolute icon, and to Rose, of course, his family, our thoughts are really with you at the moment. And Michael Guerin, an opportunity for us to reflect on a real icon of our sport in so many ways. A very good evening to you.
Evening, Greg. Big hi to everybody watching around the country. I hope the week's gone all right for you. Sad time for so many people because, as you said, Pilch is an industry icon. Very unusual that an owner doesn't become known for the horses he owns. If you owned Smolder and Waikiki Beach and Fly Like an Eagle, often people will talk about you in the context of owning those horses. But that was a very minimal part of the impact that Pilch had on the industry, not only through inter-island horse transport, where he gained that reputation for such a massive work ethic. He gained a reputation for being kind and gentle and nice to an enormous range of people. From the absolute top of the industry, some of his best friends were Roy Purdon, Mark Purdon, Tony Hurley, to stable hands whose names he may not have known, who might have helped load a horse on the truck. He was a guy who behaved the way you would hope somebody in his position would behave. So we'll get a chance now to talk a little bit and go back over his life because, of course, it will be celebrated more tomorrow, Thursday, at noon at Addington.
One of the people that did work for him is one of the heads of the RIU, Nigel McIntyre, and he relayed a story to me recently about how Pilch travelled down in the float with him one day to Forbury Park, and they were going to stay at this place which wasn't far from the park, and he went in there and there was a nightclub above it, and he said to Nigel, how do you sleep here? And he goes, no, it doesn't really happen, Neil. We just sort of go to bed, but it doesn't really. Checked them out and went and found somewhere else to stay, and that's the sort of bloke that he was. You know, he wanted to look after everybody. Gee, I was in his company so many times in his little bar there opposite the Oldhurst Hotel, and you know, a lot of icons have been through there and enjoyed an ale with Neal, and they'll do so again when we farewell him at Addington Raceway, appropriately at noon on Thursday, and a lot of stories will come out of that, I'm sure.
Yeah, look, and 95% of the stories are good. There's a couple people will tell you which were when Pilch was driving the truck and someone was being an idiot on the road, and you know how he would move them aside quite politely, and just
Michael,
because he was a hard man.
You reflected before on his work ethic. You know, it was nothing for him in the early days. Now, Osh would absolutely look down on this, to drive a float of horses to Auckland, fill the float back up and drive straight back down to Christchurch and think nothing of it.
Yeah. Yeah, and he wasn't just involved with inter-island horse transport. He had an incredibly varied life. Neal was 80 when he passed on Saturday morning, worked for a demolition company. Him and his brother Lee set up together, and Lee and Pilch were very close. Was a nurse in a psychiatric hospital, which is a remarkable story when I first heard that. So there's so much more about it. You can read more about it on the All Stars website, but also a chance for us to look back on some of the big races he won. And when Smolder, who I thought might have been nearly finished, came back and had that renaissance season just 18 months ago, because he was last season's Australian Age Pacer of the Year. I can't remember a time where more people have been happy for an owner after a race than when he won the Inter-Dominion in Perth. So many people said to me, wow, that was so great. But here's Smolder before that, years ago. This is probably the greatest modern day performance. When we voted on the greatest modern day performances at the Jewels, this was the one everybody voted for #1. And you were telling me this was one of Pilcher's favourites.
Yeah, absolutely. 150.6 we'll get to his border control performance, and that's still the all-comers record. But this Jewel was the really special one for Pilch. A lot of people had written the horse off after he got beaten at Auckland the week before. Mark Purdon absolutely took it to them down the back and set up that brilliant win. Here he is winning an iconic race in Australia, the Hunter Cup, and he was very, very brave on this occasion.
Yeah, and beating Oka Punter, of all things, which is, of course, part owned and trained for much of its career by his good mate Tony Hurley. So This is when Smolder came back into that second. He was a good 3-year-old, went into the wilderness for a while, then he came back and had that remarkable second stanza of his career, which eventually ended up at Gloucester Park in Perth, and that was when he took out that Inter-Dominion we did discuss. And obviously there were other people involved in Smolder, the Kirkwoods and the Kennards, and they've done their great things for harness racing with their ownership, but we're not actually discussing that tonight. We're discussing more about this sort of thing.
Here's the Inter-Dominion and how brave this horse was, and this epitomised it, beating Hector JJ, who'd got to the lead, and he just fought back this war horse by courage under fire, a sire that Neal had such great success with, not just this horse, but across quite a number of horses, many of whom he was able to on-sell because he was a wheel and dealer. He used to import a lot of vehicles as well from the States, and what he did with his horses as well, Michael, was often he'd move them on when he felt they'd done as much as he wanted them to do, but he always had this saying of leaving a little bit in it for the next owner, and I think that's why so many people were happy to buy off him.
I think Smolder was actually a lot like Neal. He actually probably got better as he got older, and Neal got more gentle as he got older. He became harness racing's big lovable bear. Because when you're not working as much as he was working in his 60s and 70s, then he was probably had more time to do things like the time he spent at All Stars and go to the races. And they tell me he was doing the track at the All Stars, of course, with Mark and Natalie.
In charge of the cup of tea room.
In charge of the cup of teas. And Smolder was a hard bugger. And Neal was no saint. He was a hard bugger, but he was a big, gentle teddy bear of a man. And towards the end of his career, here's a Len Smith mile win. There's Mark next to the horse. Luke McCarthy drove the horse on this occasion. Neal really struggled with the travel, as a lot of people do, and they have those sort of illnesses. And he had been not well on and off for the last 5 years, because for the previous 75 years, he probably had been going flat out.
He'd put his body through a bit.
Exactly. Yeah. So, and I think it was a real struggle to travel to that Inter-Dominion we saw in Perth. But
that made it more special, didn't it? Really did.
When you're a hard person like that, it's just what you do. And as I said, I can't remember many wins where after the race, so few people were saying to me, gee, Smolder was good. So many people in Perth, and this is, you know, on the other side of Australasia, saying, oh, that's great for Pilcher. So it was pretty cool. Universally, I'm sure he had enemies, because everybody does have enemies. I have never met a person in racing, but particularly harness racing, who ever said to me, well, don't like Neal Pilcher. Every single person I've ever met in harness racing liked him, and it takes some doing.
Yeah, it does. Fly like an eagle. We'll have a look at his Derby winning performance. The significance of this was, Michael, was driven by Tony Hurley, who has been a lifetime friend of Neal Pilcher's. Yeah,
and he's a guy who, Tony's had horses with Neal for a long time, but we predominantly think about him as Mark Purden's man for the last sort of 10 years, which might be geography based. Obviously Neal was spending a lot of time in Christchurch in the last decade, and obviously Mark was there and also gave him a base, gave him somewhere to go and hang out. But he would have got a kick out of this, as would have Tony. Tony was very close, as were the whole Hurley Purden family to Neal, but there's also plenty of other people in various parts of the industry who were also very close to Neal, and some of their names aren't going to be as well known to us. He would have raced a horse with a lot of people.
Yeah.
Ben Grice, I think he raced horses with for a long time, so a lot of people will have their stories, and as I said, they'll be told and retold and embellished at Addington tomorrow. Border Control, he actually Neal part-owned the horse who is still the national record holder.
All-comers record holder, yeah.
Winning at the Jewels, and this was a great race. Gee, this seems a long time ago.
Yeah, it does. Bit of a legend, hits the lead there, and Hoka punted to his inside, and Border Control, 150.6, Michael, and it has not been broken. It was late in the day at Ashburton. He only just got there, and we know what the second horse has gone on to do in America since then. Yeah,
so actually it was one of the great Jewels races too. So he's been involved in a couple of the really great Jewels races of all time. You knew Neal better than I. Knew Neal a lot to say hello to and shake hands and have 5-minute chats, but you would go over to his house and sit down and have a really good chat with him. Here's Border Control in the Derby at Addington. As he got older, was it more the case that he wasn't working, he had more time to enjoy all this stuff?
Oh, I think so. But one thing that stood out incredibly, and you think of guys from his era, the likes of the legend D.G. Jones, Win without boasting, lose without regret, or that was his saying, and that was very much Neal's as well. And he epitomised everything that an owner should be. He never changed in his demeanour, but yeah, look, he always had that wry smile. He had a wicked sense of humour. He didn't suffer fools. If he thought someone was wrong about what they were saying, or he didn't agree with it, then he wouldn't necessarily front them. He'd just walk away. He just didn't have any time for them. And yeah, I had plenty of time to share with him over the last couple of decades, and I'll always cherish those. And he's gone to a better place now because he was not a well man. So
No.
yeah, I'm sure, like a lot of people, looking forward to farewelling him tomorrow.
It'd be he's going to leave a unique-sized hole in harness racing, because there's lots of people who make up the harness racing world, but everybody's unique in their own way. But Pilcher was particularly unique. Everybody knew him by his name, Pilcher. As I said, so many people didn't know all the things about him until I read the obituary on the All Stars website Dave McCarthy wrote. I didn't know some of that stuff. So, yeah, it's a sad time, but that's a life well lived. And as I said, it'll be celebrated tomorrow. The one thing you did say there, which is one reason I respected Pilcher, I respected his work ethic, but there's a lot of people in harness racing who work hard, so I understand that. What I respected was the fact that he won and lost with class, because we've seen in the more modern era that sometimes that's hard for some owners to do. And that was one area of his life which maybe comes from a couple of generations ago, where people learn to act in a certain way.
The other thing I want to finish on is how appropriate, and obviously we didn't know at the time, the last possible race that he could win, he won at Addington Raceway with his good mate Mark Purdon, who they were inseparable, those pair, and I'm sure Mark will be hurting at the moment, but Mark up winning the last race was really appropriate, and we'll leave farewelling Neal to tomorrow, but it's been great to reflect on an industry icon for sure.
Well, had Neal not been in hospital by that stage, I'm sure he would have been thinking with Mark up, well, this has probably done enough now, let's move this on to somebody else and leave something in it for them. So we hope you enjoyed looking back on Neal's life, and to all of those who head to Addington tomorrow or to the after-match drinks. So we hope you enjoy the experience to celebrate somebody's life. As I said, we'll leave a very unique hole in the New Zealand harness racing.
It's actually been a pretty tough week in harness racing. A guy that not a lot of people would know by name, but plenty of horse people would have spoken to at Addington Raceway, Colin Steele, was farewelled on Tuesday. Colin's been part of the Addington Raceway since the mid-90s. Heck of a nice bloke, very, very diligent worker, worked extremely hard, and Colin took a farewell lap of Addington Raceway. Went to his first cup, was Lordship winning in 1962 as about a 14-year-old. Bunked school, I know what that was like, Colin, but love the history. And if you go onto the Addington website and look up the history of Addington Raceway, he's the bloke who put that all together. So he'll be missed for sure, and plenty of people, like I say, would have spoken to Colin, nominated their horses, told him who was going to be driving them, etc. They may not have ever met him, but his contribution to Addington Raceway was enormous. Short break for us here on the box seat. On the other side, we've got some big news around the Drivers' Premiership, and one driver in particular. Welcome back into your box seat. Before we went to the break, we mentioned we might have some significant news around the Drivers' Premiership, and in particular, one driver. We'll get to that in a moment, but an opportunity for us to catch up with the 10-time winning Premiership driver, Dexter Dunn. He's joined us. Very good evening to you, Dexter.
Yeah, good evening, fellas.
Nice to have you part of the show tonight, and the reason that is we've had something in the pipeline, or you have, for quite a wee while now, an opportunity to drive up at the States, a place you visited before and driven there obviously as part of the World Drivers' Championship, but this could become something that unfolds in the next 3 or 4 weeks.
Yeah, that's right, Greg. It's been 7 years since I had a 3-month stint in America driving, which led into the World Drivers' Champs then. So, yeah, opportunities come up for me to head over and spend the winter over there, and see where it takes me after that. But yeah, been pretty lucky to have Chris Ryder backing me and helping me get over there and give me a bit of a leg up. So challenge I'm really looking forward to, and especially skipping the Christchurch Winter as well will be not too bad.
Dexter, when you've won the premiership 10 times and you've driven over 2,000 winners, I guess you're looking for challenges, things that might push you that little bit further, and this would clearly be one of those.
Yeah, definitely, Greg. I still love the racing here, and I've had a great season numbers wise. But you are always looking for that, new challenge and a new test, I guess you could say. So I know going over there it's going to be extremely hard. There's such a massive pool of drivers, and it's not going to be easy work. But that's something I look forward to. The challenge of it's going to be exciting, and we've really get down to business when I get over there, and hopefully do my best.
Dexter, is the potential, if this sojourn, if you like, is quite successful, that this could be something that you do each and every year? Is that entered into the equation at this stage? Yeah, I think so, Greg. I think I'll probably get a good idea of how I'll go over there with this trip, and see where driving in America could take me, maybe in the future. But I've got a lot of connections, a lot more connections since the last time I've been over there. I know a lot of the drivers, obviously, and I know a lot of the trainers as well. So hopefully I'll get a good idea of how I'm going to fit in over there with this trip, and see what the future holds with it. But like I said, I still love the racing here. I'm hoping to be back in time for obviously getting ready for the Cup Carnival. So it's a experiment period, but it's one that could lead on to future visits, or maybe being there permanently.
Okay, Dex, you say you might come back for the Cup Carnival, but obviously one of the major meetings of the season is the Breeders' Crown, and that is in November. Is there any chance you could stay for this trip? If it goes really well, if you start kicking goals at Yonkers and at the Meadowlands, and you get on a very good horse or two, is there a chance you won't be back until Christmas?
I'd be very surprised, I think, Mick, if I went over there and landed a decent horse. That would be for the Breeders' Crown. Be going for the Breeders' Crown this year. Probably make them a run a little bit late. I think the 2-year and 3-year-olds, they've been stepping out over the last month, and they get snatched up pretty quick. So it's not like I'm not going to be over there to try for that to happen, Mick. But yeah, I mean, you never know. So we'll have to wait and see. So it is one of those things. We'll be going over there, and there's going to be no finish date of when I'm coming back, or no permanent date, or no return flight as such. But wait and see, I guess, and just hope for the best.
10 seasons of winning the premiership and well over 2,000 wins, or something close enough to that, Dex. Has it got stale? Has it got stale? And people ask me about my role in the industry and other people's roles in the industry when you are rocking up to the same places again. Probably not Addington, but of course the smaller tracks, and Forbury Park on a Thursday night can be a wet and unglamorous experience, some would suggest. Have you ever got stale in that time, Dex? And is this a chance for you to maybe re-energise the batteries?
I think it will re-energise the batteries, Mick. It can get a little bit stale at times. And saying that, though, I don't think those moments last for too long. They could even just be for a weekend of racing, and then the following weekend you're back feeling good about it. So I know coming into the winter, July and August, once we've got through the Jills, it is a period that, is a little bit run-of-the-mill. And it's, going to Forbury on a Thursday night, and you have your Addington on a Friday and a Sunday meeting. So it's a period it's probably good to be away. I still love our summer racing here. I still love the carnivals we go to, and obviously Cup time and places like Kaikoura. I mean, they're pretty unique, and meetings you don't get anywhere around the world, not that I've been to anyway. So there's a lot of good things about New Zealand racing that keep you pretty happy about it here, but it's definitely going to be a re-energising phase for me, and you know, although my numbers have been good this year, Mick, I haven't won a Group 1, I haven't won a major race, so I probably am looking for another options that could help me in my career.
At the moment, Dexter, it's hard to talk about you without talking about Blair Orange, your good friend who you travel with so often, who is going to win the premiership now. It must be an unusual situation because the person you spend the most time with in harness racing is also your biggest rival.
He is, Mick, and you know, a lot of people that probably don't know us as well as the closer people do, would know that the rivalry's been great. You know, we spend a lot of time in the car together at the airports, and you know, and then obviously on the racetrack together. So, you know, people at the races have talked a lot more about it than we have to each other. But it's been a great rivalry. I wouldn't want to bow down to anybody else. And Blair's done a great job for a number of years and extremely deserved to win the premiership. And for him to get his 200th win for the season was fantastic last night as well.
Has it had a part to play in your decision, Dexter, the fact that, well, there's no monetary prize, I suppose, at the end of the season, and you've won it 10 times, and has it played a part at all in your decision to head to the States?
No, I don't think so, Greg. Some people probably think it has, but it hasn't. You know, I was really worried about this year. I wouldn't have been away for the first couple of months as well on sort of holidays and sojourns. So I think it's no, it hasn't got anything to do with it. And I think it's good for racing to have a change. You know, it's as much as I hate to be the one that's you know, going to be the one getting beat running second, but it's good for racing, I think. And as a lot of people know, Sticks, he's a great fella, and you know, a lot of people will be happy for him to win it, and no more than me.
Dex, you've done an awful lot for somebody your age in harness racing. I take it there's one very obvious race you haven't won, which would be the top of the list at the moment? Yep, definitely, Mick. You know, I think I've stated on a number of occasions that it'd be great to win the New Zealand Cup. So, yeah, I mean, even if it was, you know, once in your whole career, you'd be happy with that. So that's always there, Mick, but it's the one race for the year, and sometimes you've got to look elsewhere as well.
Dexter, tell us about the process from now. What needs to happen? When are you likely to leave?
So at the moment, Greg, I've been working on my getting my visa for America over the last week or so, a couple of weeks, and got an interview at the American consulate on in 2 Thursdays' time, or 3 Thursdays' time. So that's sort of the final stage to get my O1 visa to get over there, and hopefully we get the nod. And once that comes through, it will be probably a matter of a week or two that I'll be away. So looking towards mid to late June, all going well, that I'll head over there. Like I said before, you know, a lot of the horses that have been racing all summer are stepping out now at qualifiers, so even to get on a half-decent one, we really need to get over there sooner rather than later and get on them at the qualifiers and try and, you know, get my bum in the seat of something that's half-decent. But, you know, I'm also lucky Chris is going to be supporting me with some of his stable runners to get me kick-started.
Hey Dexter, I really appreciate you coming on our show and giving us the heads up about what is likely to unfold. I'm sure I echo your sentiments, Michael, in that we wish you very well. We hope, first of all, the visa comes through, and you know, this is a successful sojourn for you, because yeah, I think it's pretty exciting.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Greg. And just quickly, to once again all my loyal supporters this season that have stuck with me throughout the season, I'd just like to thank them very much as well, because it doesn't happen without them.
Thanks, Dexter, and yeah, what a wonderful opportunity this is for this young man who's achieved so much, as you said before. Of
course it is. If you can travel for part of your career, it doesn't matter if you're a plumber or whatever you do for a job, if you get to go overseas and experience new cultures, and we see it so often with young New Zealand rugby players, and it makes them more well-rounded human beings. So Dex gets to go learn a whole different culture, and he might even get a chance to jump back on Chris and me. Who knows? You know, his favourite all-time horse who's over there, and he's
or Lazarus. I mean,
exactly.
Who knows?
He's going to see plenty of horses over there. Who knows? Look, he's a class act. What he's done in the last 10 years has never been done, and it will never be done again. Nobody goes from unknown at 16, and if his name wasn't Dunn, no one would have ever heard of him. It was only because his name was Dunn that people even thought, okay, I know who that is, to winning 10 premierships. It's just unbelievable. Yeah. So, look, I hope he's successful in North America. I hope he's not too successful, because I want
him here.
Exactly, to come here. What it does now, it opens a very real doorway that if Dexter is looking at doing this for 3 or 4 or 5 seasons, that Blair Orange could be a dominant premiership winner for 3 or 4 or 5 seasons. Because he's on 200 after last night at Manawatu. 2 months of the season to go, plus about a week. Dexter's record's 229.
It's on.
All of a sudden that's on. And if somebody had told me when Dexter drove 229 a couple of years ago, there was a chance that could be broken by anybody but Dexter Dunn, I would have thought, well, that was the stupidest thing I'd ever heard. Yeah. Here's Blair last night at Manawatu, his 200th win for the season.
Yep.
It's just, I mean, seriously, the numbers are so big for these two young men compared with everybody else in the game. And if one of them is going to be spending 3 months less than here, Blair could be our dominant driver for conceivably a couple of seasons, maybe longer.
43 or 44 of these wins have come at the Manawatu. The decision for him to go along there with Michael House. Now, the option went to Dexter first, so this could have been Dexter. He decided not to. Blair took it with open arms, and as a result has done what he's done. Let's be fair. He would currently, if he didn't go to Manawatu, Michael, he would be something like 15 behind Dexter, and you would think Dexter would have an unassailable lead.
I think very good point there. We saw a couple of tweets sent out by some people, and James Hornbrook, I think he used to work for the Purders.
That's right, yep.
Sending out a very relevant tweet there. The name Orange isn't Dunn, and it's not Purdon, and it's not Jones or De Philippi. It doesn't come with any boost in harness racing. And when Blair left the All-Stars, I thought, oh, well, you know.
Gutsy play.
I once flew Blair from Christchurch to Sydney to drive a horse of mine in a Group 1. We trusted him that much. But you still don't think what happened since is going to happen. It's been one of the more remarkable things we've seen, and to dovetail into the Dexter thing and the fact they are such good friends, it's been a really cool story. Now the focus of that story changes to not who win the premiership, because the market's closed, to whether he'll break the record. And as I said, if that happens, it's just going to be another head shaker. So interesting times ahead, but best of luck to Dexter, and thanks for coming on our show and breaking it here first.
We're going to take a short break here on your box seat, and when we return, we've got a whole heap of racing to get through, in particular from Addington last Friday night. Final premier meeting of the season was at Addington Raceway on Friday night. A couple of Group 1s there. Let's go to the time-honoured Oaks with the Breeders and Fast Track Insurance. An Australian Raider, She's All Rock. Second favourite with the favourite Ali Mac. And behind was simply too strong.
Ellie Mac, better tricks, better joy, running on well. Dizzy Miss Lizzie, a first 4 chance, but She's All Rock rocked them. She's All Rock has beaten home Ellie Mac. She galloped just past the post. The winner to it was well past Better Tricks and Dizzy Miss Lizzie.
Mark Purdon, She's All Rock, comes to New Zealand, first time out of your barn, and produces a performance like that. Wow.
Yeah, she was. She was certainly pretty special anyway, Greg, and got quite a nice run, but gee, she felt great and just turning in. I mean, when I just gave her a head, I didn't turn the stick. She just, you know, I knew the speed she was going, nothing was going to come off her back and beat her.
You saw her in New South Wales. Chris Ryder purchased the horse, and she gave you such a good impression. You rubber stamped that for him, didn't you?
That's right, yeah. Chris has been looking for a horse for some time, and they always said if you see one that'll suit America, let me know. And this filly had just won the New South Wales Oaks at that time, and I just thought she looked quite special then.
Mark, leading towards the harness jewels, the Australian colours haven't been able to salute thus far in the 11 previous years on that run, and given she'll be with your barn a little bit longer, she can only really improve.
Yeah, I'd like to think so, Greg. I was a little bit... I wasn't sure just what to expect tonight, but she certainly delivered and delivered stylishly.
You grab yourself another Oaks. Congratulations to you, Mark. Well done. Just before you go, what about that little skip past the post? That was a little bit scary.
Yeah, I don't know what all that was about, but pleased it was after the post and not before anyway.
Well done to you, mate. Well done.
Thanks, Greg.
Well, it was actually just before the post, because when you look at the footage, you can see a bit of change in colour on the track from the photo finish lights, and it appears that's what she skipped over, but it didn't matter. They don't go any better than that, Michael.
It could have mattered.
It could have if it was in a length.
Well,
Yeah.
exactly. So say, for example, Ellie Mack, and we'll get to her in a sec, say she's held her back and she's by a length, and there's a shadow on the track at Addington, and She's All Rock jumps that shadow and gallops over the line. Under the lap-on rule, Ellie Mack wins.
Relegated, yes.
That would have been awfully
It's not like that happens
tricky.
every week or
no,
anything
true,
at Addington, but
I
it
wouldn't be
was...
surprised to see her in a shadow role at Cambridge. It's two things about the race. First of all, we all knew She's All Rock was good. We just didn't expect her to turn up and be dominant over Ellie Mack because A, Ellie Mack is so good, but also B, because she had all the disadvantages. Bad barrier draw, new to the facility. She arrived here and Mark thought she was a little bit fat and undercooked. The race changed complexion enormously at the 1,000-metre mark when Ellie Mack was in front and She's All Rock ran past her. And my initial thought was, well, why did they hand up there? Then 1,000 metres later, it was quite obvious why they handed up. She's All Rock was bolting and Ellie Mack was under a bit of pressure. I think Ellie Mack's underperformed here by about 2 or 3 lengths. And Natalie's told the RIU afterwards she was disappointed with her performance. Even when she was working to the lead, Ellie Mack, she did so under some sufferance. There was no real change up to it there. So there'll be some people who aren't happy to see the $1.45 favourite hand up at the 1,000. It wouldn't have mattered. She's All Rock would have sat parked outside Ellie Mack and beaten her there. I think Ellie Mack's a very good filly, but she has underperformed there.
Subsequent to that, Michael, the blood test has come back with a slight virus and some tie-ups. So I tell you what, some great news coming out of the RIU. When I say great news, a lot of information coming out of there, and I have to applaud them for doing that. Yeah. And also, at this time of the season, a lot of these horses are going to have little issues, nooks and crannies and things that are just beaten up because it's been a long season for them. I think a lot of horses got viruses during the Auckland Cup Carnival. It was very prominent in the Auckland area. Some have gone home and haven't been as good. Also, it does raise a question. Is this 3-year-old filly's crop in New Zealand as strong as usual? Usually our 3-year-old filly's crop is headlined by Adore Me or Carabella or blah, blah. Dream About Me,
exactly.
The list goes on.
Total superstars. But She's All Rock has won the Oaks in Victoria and New South Wales. Our fillies didn't bother turning up or didn't qualify for those finals. She might just simply be better than ours. If she draws the front line in the duels, it's just inconceivable she'll get beaten.
It is?
Well,
you can't argue it, not on that performance, or any of her Australian performances, to be fair, at Group 1 level.
Ellie Mack can just blast to the lead and be in front of her, but you suggest on that performance there, if they both race up to that level, she'll sit parked outside Ellie Mack and beat her. And as it raises the question, Ellie Mack might be a really good filly, but this may not be a great crop. And when you've seen these horses race back in the grade, they haven't been dominant back in the grade. So for what it's worth, it's great to have her here. It adds some real depth and a real element of ours versus their best for the duels.
Which I think is fantastic. Let's hear from the drivers that were beaten by her.
Pretty brave tonight, Nat.
Look, she went good, though the other filly was just better on the night. You know, I probably just thought she was slightly under, never felt like really sharp, like even to get around to the top, I had to sort of really ask her. But hey, make excuses, the other filly was just better. 16.09
around Cambridge. Should be pretty excited about that with her.
Yeah, I think so. As long as the other bugger draws a second row or something, I needed to draw one the second by the looks of it, because it looks a very high speed horse. Look, she's down and had a great season, so no complaints here.
Nath, your summation of her efforts tonight?
They were good, Maddie. She was very brave, tried very hard all the way to the line after a very, very tough run, really. But no, she was great.
Bless you, was much better tonight.
Yeah, for sure, Matt. You know, it's just good that she's sort of come out and run home and found the line for a change, which she hasn't been doing the last couple of starts. So, you know, it's just good to see that she is back to where she needs to be. And, you know, as I said last week, whatever Nigel done this week, it's worked anyway.
All right, we'll be hoping that he can do something similar heading towards defending her title then.
Yeah, you know, she's going to have to step it up another couple of notches again, as, you know, you've seen how impressive marks 2 and 3 were then. But, you know, if you're not in, you can't win, Matt. So, you know, well, fingers crossed.
Dex, better joy, what did you make of her efforts out there?
Yeah, I was happy with her, Matt. You know, pretty tricky draw, and we're sorting up back, and they backed off pretty quickly going down the back the first time. So we sort of made our move and then took cover, and you know, I think the last quarter was at 26, Matt. So yeah, she sprinted up pretty good, really. Pretty happy with the run.
Back to a mile around Cambridge. Would you be confident going there?
Yeah, well, it depends on the draws, really. Yeah, she's felt pretty bright tonight, which is pleasing. So you head up there, and she's pretty good off the short distance.
Terry DeBarber, what did you make of her efforts?
No, disappointing tonight. I did a wee bit early, but not too much, and got it pretty easy in front. And no, she's flat, sort of a long way out. So I'll have to go home and think about it. Might run a blood, and she is having a good blow tonight. So yeah, hopefully something shows up in the blood.
Okay, if her bloods are okay, would you press on to Cambridge?
Yeah, I think we'll still go and get it right. We've got a fortnight to get it right there, so yeah, fingers crossed, mate.
Tim Delight and me in the Oaks, talk me through her efforts tonight.
Yeah, look, man, it's obviously the way the draw fell, it looked good the first mile, but yeah, once we got to the half, it sort of turned a bit pear-shaped. We ended up a wee way back on the fence, and you know, had to come wide and chasing, which was never going to be easy. But you know, look, on to the jewels now. I'm sure back to the mile we'll regroup and hopefully pray for a good draw.
Yeah, she'll be very competitive, I'm sure, in the jewels. Just on the winner, George Tennant, who bred She's All Right, was on track. That was cool. And back to DeBarber, again, news from the RIU. Those bloods did reveal that she was experiencing some muscle tie-up.
Yeah, a lot of horses seem to be having those little viruses, and maybe it's just this end of the season, I suppose. It's getting to there, but now she's the favourite. She's All Rock, but this is incredibly determined by the draw. Ali Mac draws 1, 2. She's All Rock draws the second line. Ali Mac could start $1.60. She's All Rock could start $3. But if She's All Rock draws to lead, and the Australian horses tend to have better gate speed than ours, she'll be $1.30. And that duck will be broken for those green colours. So I hate to say this because I don't want to be negative about it, but I almost would have liked her to stay with Mark Pitt, the Australian trainer, because when you have an Australian horse win the jewels, it would be nice if it was trained by an Australian. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree.
Technically, it's still not going to be an Australian trained horse winning the jewels. They do have 4 other possibilities, but hell of a good filly. Great buy.
Hey,
I only paid 220 grand for her.
Just on the Aussie invites, I know it won't be popular at HRNZ, but I spoke to Brian Rabbit after...
You're not popular at HRNZ anyway.
Okay. I spoke to Brian Rabbit after that race. 180,000 was turned over on the Oaks this year, the highest turnover race away from New Zealand Cup week. And there's one sole reason for that. There was an Australian in it. A lot of emphasis is placed on getting the Australians invited for the jewels. I know I've said this before, but when the horses like Divisive and Salty Robin and those types of horses came and raced in the lead-up races, it created a lot more noise and credibility about the Australians coming and going into the harness jewels. Why isn't there more emphasis placed on getting them here for those? And just on that, Addington have got a significant challenge coming up with their harness jewels next year because the feature race build up towards it. For example, Easter Saturday comes early, so therefore the Easter Cup can't be run on Easter Saturday this year because there won't be any lead-up races for it. I think they might have to shuffle the deck a little bit, and why wouldn't they? Why not move the Derby, both trotting and pacing, maybe the Welcome Stakes, a lot closer to the jewels, and have a massive month of May/June, the first weekend in June, and have those lead-up races. So those horses, particularly the travelling horses, are at Addington for an entire 4 or 5 weeks. I think they may look into that.
I think the reason we didn't have it this season is because it's at Cambridge.
Yes.
So, no, not many Australians are going to want to come to Addington and then go to Cambridge.
No.
So
but next year they could.
Exactly. Next season, I think it's likely to happen. Most of these horses here They want to fly into Auckland, have a relaxing time for a couple of days, go to Cambridge, which is basically a morning in the float, and go home. That's what they want to do, and that's what they're going to do for most of them. Now, let's get into them. Dance Craze is a very good 4-year-old trotter who is a late replacement for Custodian. Darren Williams pulled off a miracle there. Wobbly, I didn't think was going to come. After I got beaten at Kilmore, won the New South Wales Derby. That's going to add some real depth to that race against Winterfell because we've already lost our best fillies there in Luby Lou, and the defending champion's not back. Carla's Pixel was really disappointing last time, but she won the Ladyship Mile, so she deserves to be there. Platinum Revolution has been excellent and
won at the weekend.
And has that Triton factor behind it where there's a bit of rah-rah. But the really interesting one there is Pete's Big Jim.
Again from the Triton barn.
Well, Pete's Big Jim was trained by a trainer no one had heard of, and when the bloke who owns it rang Harness Race in New Zealand, they were like, really? I mean, you're kidding, aren't you? Like, this thing's been racing like in the bush. And then the young lady who was training it, the horse got taken off her because she was bizarrely on the unpaid forfeit list, went to Shane Tritton's, trialled yesterday, 153 home in 26 seconds. Now, Shane works him pretty hard, but you would expect it to improve a lot. It's gone from being a horse who had no chance of winning the Jewels a month ago, and it probably still isn't going to win the Jewels. Would have been 100 to 1 in any market, might have been 1,000 to 1, and it could turn up now with a good barrier draw and be a real chance. There's no doubt this aids the Jewels. There's no doubt when we have the Jewels preview show next Wednesday, by the way, when we have this, these horses are going to be factors. And to be perfectly honest, the Australian horses haven't been factors in the Jewels since this invite thing started. There's been the occasional one.
The Divisive, Mustang Mac.
But the Divisive was before the invite thing started. They just turned up by themselves. They just turned up and won their way into the race. Same as Mustang Mac.
Yeah, but so do you agree with what I'm saying, or you think the current system of inviting them from Australia is the way to go?
I think inviting them from Australia, they had to do it this time because nobody wanted to go to Addington and then bounce back up. It's different.
There is a chance to change it. That's what I'm probably...
Next season... And it's so frustrating, and there's been so much bad reporting about this over the years from people who... There's a lot of journalists who hate harness racing in New Zealand. They just do, because half of them have worked there and they've been laid off. So everything harness racing in New Zealand do, well, it's true.
Well, I'm not one of those. I didn't get laid off.
No, exactly. Everything harness racing in New Zealand does, they're dirty on. And the problem is that this Jules invite thing, they're dirty on. But anybody who doesn't understand this very simple concept, the closer you mesh the two places together, New Zealand and Australia, and create a bigger pool of money and interest on both sides of the Tasman, the more money everybody makes.
Well, that's exactly what I'm saying though, Michael, because if they came to more dances, then we would have an even bigger pool, but we're only getting them for one dance.
Exactly, but next season Addington...
There's a chance.
Addington being into Addington, but that's also up to Addington. Addington need to say, we're going to open this with a clean sheet of paper. Yep. We have this new race meeting called the Jewels, which we've never had before. And we need to approach this, as you said, with a very clean sheet of paper. And if that means Addington don't have any feature races from January 1 till March 31, no one's going to care.
It won't matter. Yeah.
Of course it doesn't matter. The gallops are so strong in that 3-month period. Why take them on? Say to ourselves, tell you what, the gallops can be a bit crappy in winter when things get a bit wet. We're going to have a massive May and June. So I would say to Addington, you know, the club there, yes, as Greg suggests, have a clean piece of paper for next season and change that rule for the New Zealand Trotting Cup, but that's a story from us.
Right, we talked about the 2-year-olds, the Aussie invite. Let's have a look at what we're going to try and repel that challenge with. And this surprised a few, Michael. Jessie Duke could not get near another masterpiece 2 weeks ago in the Sales Series final. But after working hard, the Sire Stakes final looks something like this.
Between them, another masterpiece ahead, Jessie Duke, and then a better act. It's Jessie Duke going to another masterpiece, and Jessie Duke beat another masterpiece and a better act. Supreme Dominator ran fourth. Then came Eisenberg, Wardan Delight.
Congratulations, Mark. That's quite a turnaround on another masterpiece tonight. What was the difference? Why did he improve so much, do you think?
Oh, look, I think Johnny sort of made a run down the back, and we went hard down the back, and I opted to let him go, but I think it might have just taken a little bit of the sting out of the stablemate, and this guy just sort of come and had the last run again.
Mark, he's been the benchmark throughout up until a fortnight ago, and tonight he just showed exactly why he should be in those colours come a fortnight's time.
Yeah, that's right, Greg. Yeah, I know. He had to be, you know, he was probably the best one in it tonight, I thought. And I did do a little bit of work early, getting around Brett Mangus's horse around the first corner. So he was wide doing that work, and full credit to him.
The Feast family, who have been such a great supporters of you and Natalie and the All-Stars team for, well, the best part of a decade now, continue with this horse, but they've outlaid a fair amount of money, so he needed to be pretty good.
Yeah, that's right, and often they don't work out, but in this case it has, and it's great for Bill and Jean that it has.
Mark, it's been a terrific race for you over the years. You got another win, well done.
Thanks, Greg.
Close to 200,000. He's getting very close to his purchase price.
Yeah, he is, and I think there's nothing between those two horses. When I first watched the race, I thought maybe Heisenberg had softened the leader up down the back in 27 seconds, but when you think about it, really, the winner had been parked and was also part of that burn down the back and getting softened up as well.
And
so
220 overall.
It was just a clear points job to Jesse Duke. It's just gone better than another Masterpiece.
But you said last week
the gap is closed.
The two-year-old form fluctuates, and whether it's boys or girls, it doesn't seem to matter. It can flip around very quickly, and a fortnight it has.
Yeah, and hey, in the barrier draws at the Jewels, you put Jesse Duke 1 or 2, he goes around very hot. Put another Masterpiece 1 or 2, he goes around hot. And that's where people who watch the show and who get sick of the All-Stars domination, that's why it's good you have Pete's Big Jim coming. Because all of a sudden you've got a horse you don't know who will almost certainly have gate speed and will almost certainly be driven aggressively. And that opens up a whole new type of challenge for the race. But I think flat out Jesse Duke might be slightly the better horse. The horse who was disappointing was War Dan Delight, and we'll hear about that through the beaten drivers to see what they made of him.
Well, Tommy's been pretty brave tonight.
Yeah, definitely, Matt. Look, obviously, he's been blessed the last couple of weeks. He's had nice draws, and you know he's been able to use them. And he relaxed nice in front, and you know he enjoyed his work, and you know he tried hard, but just on the night, just one better.
Well, it looks pretty exciting heading towards the Jewels. Would it be fair to say, you knowing these horses, that there's not a lot between your horse and Jesse Duke?
Oh, look, I think I showed that tonight. I think the improvement from Mark's horse now with that run the fortnight ago under its belt was just a little bit sharper again tonight. So, yeah, look, it's flip of the coin. I think it's whoever gets that drop on each other, it just shows there's not a lot between them at all.
Your first drive under race day conditions, what did you think?
Yeah, happy enough with him, Matty. You know, he's sort of coming from racing a few odd two-year-olds that are good enough, but now he's sort of chucked into with the big boys. It was a good effort, you know. He took the shortcuts along the way and come out on the winner's back, but to his credit, his last 50 was strong, so, you know, he's going to be a lovely three-year-old.
Ricky, your second drive on Supreme dominated tonight. Did you notice a bit of improvement?
Oh, definitely, Matt. He felt really well. I think, you know, got a wee bit better draw and a better run. He would have been right in it.
Nat, what did you make of the efforts of the Son of Better's Delight tonight?
Look, he was okay. Sort of, he was always going to find it hard. You know, he's going in a bit short. He'd missed his last two races through, you know, a couple of various things, and he's just a little bit behind the others, just on the 8 ball behind him. Like he's not missed that bit of work, missed that bit of racing, and they're just a bit harder and fitter. But look, hey, I'll stick with him.
And a couple of weeks to get him up to speed, so to speak. It's interesting, this, Michael. Of course, Jesse Duke flipped out a lot further than the 240, back into that now. 290, another Masterpiece, but you're right, it'll be barrier draw dominated. Of course, Star of Montana came out only in the last 24 hours.
I think a better Act's too short there at $5. I think War Dan Delight's too short. They took money for him last week. He's now $4.80. This market will just change enormously on those barrier draws, but I tell you what, there's a lot of depth here. There's a lot of very good horses on that page.
Extreme Stride won, beautifully bred, of course, out of Twisted Twirl, won the first race last Friday night and launched himself into the race.
Yep, Major Express has been excellent, so is Baiting. One of the best two-year-old jewels we've ever seen. Added the Australian horse and the unknown factor of the Tritton Barn. Really good race, could almost be the highlight of the day.
Well, one of the highlights from Friday night, without doubt, was the 2-year-old Hara de Trotters size. Wow, Enhance Your Calm, Oscar Bonavina. Oscar Bonavina was outstanding. Look, the winner here, but he's fought back so bravely. Enhance Your Calm.
Enhance Your Calm. Oscar still just in front. Now Enhance Your Calm comes back, and Enhance Your Calm is going to win it. Enhance Your Calm beat a very brave Oscar Bonavina. Third over as You Really Got Me. Fourth, Get Lucky.
3 from 3, Enhance Your Calm. In fact, he's never been beaten publicly. Oscar Bonavina moved from the winning post, got outside him and really put it to him. I think this could be the race of the harness, Jules, if they go to war like that again, Michael.
Yeah, look, great race, good fun to watch, and we're huge on the show of the opinion that if you just give the All-Stars the lead, they're going to beat you all the time. So Maddie Williams said, well, we're not doing that. We're going to really get stuck into it. He probably almost did it to the point where he overdrove his horse, but he did so because he knew if he gave Enhance the Calm, Real Calm, a jog around in front, he was going to win. Very hard to make a case for anything else of the Southern Trotters to beat these because, of course, One Apollo's gone to the paddock and it's out of the jewels.
As has Get Lucky.
Yep, two good horses. Yeah,
and they'll be better 3-year-olds.
And you talk about barrier draws. Again, well, one of these draws the second line, which you're 33% chance of doing. Maybe a bit less because there'll be a couple of unruly in the 2-year-old trot. One of them draws the second line. It could be $3. The other one draws the front line. Could be very, very short. But the 2-year-old trot, there can be a couple of gallopers along the way too. So, yeah, tell you what, I swore at the 400 the horse outside the lead
was going to win. Let's hear what the drivers had to say about the event.
Well, Mark, Enhance Your Calm, victorious tonight. Talk me through the run.
Well, he was good out of the gate. I had to use him a little bit to work from an outside draw to the lead, but after that, with probably a lap to go, Matty Williamson strode up there, and the pace was on from sort of there on, and I was a little bit concerned. I thought we might have been going too hard down the back, and but anyway, to his credit, he really rallied when I asked him up the straight.
Okay, very good effort tonight. Addington's a big track, a little bit smaller around Cambridge. How do you feel he'll cope with that?
Oh, look, I don't think he'll have any problems with the track. He's a very natural trotter, and I'll just be pleased to get him through there and give him some time off because he's a big horse and you can see he's still developing. So, you know, he's just starting to come to the end of it a little bit now.
Matty, talk me through the run.
Got a good run through early. He did well trotting through there and got around outside Mark and sort of thought we had him on the last bend, but as the Persian ones do, he kicked back too good. But he's got a great race, our fella. We've just probably got to draw better than him.
Okay, is that the tactic going forward to the Jewels? Is that how you think you can beat him?
Well, that'd be the only tactic I'd say is to draw better than him on tonight's run. He's going to need to be ahead of him rather than behind him. But no, he went a great race, so yeah, real proud of how he went.
What's the travel plans for Team Williamson?
I think Dad will take him up next week, and then yeah, he'll put the polish on, and yeah, just hopefully he's had 2 bad draws, so hopefully they're good draws with one now.
Yeah, all right. With a good draw and a nice trip, do you feel as though he's capable of winning a duel?
Yeah, well, I don't think there's much between them. You know, he really hasn't lost anything on him tonight. So yeah, if he can draw better than him, have to sit outside on Cambridge, it'd be very hard for him to do so, I'd say.
Well, Brad, you got round in one piece. That's a bonus.
Yeah, that was probably the main aim tonight, Matt. Just get round and get a positive experience for the horse, and that's what happened tonight. He trotted all the way and got home nice, so yeah, positive signs.
Plans from now on?
The camp's 50-50 on going to the Jewels now, Matt. There's talk of just turning him out and letting him mature. He definitely does need to mature, but that decision hasn't been finalised, but that's the way the camp's leaning toward at the moment. Just give the horse time, and yeah, he'll be, when he is the finished project, he's going to be, a force to be reckoned with.
Mango, talk me through your run tonight.
Oh, it was good, Matty. She drew the second row again, and look, she went good though. It went 59-mile rate, and she's only a filly racing against the Colts. So I thought probably the best run she's had this season, to be fair. Yeah, I thought really good.
Okay, if she drew the front in the Jewels, how do you think she'd cope?
Oh, I'm sure she'll be fine now. She just went through a bit of a stage at the start, so that's why we put her on the unruly. But look, she was great tonight, even though she's second row. I think she'll be fine, and yeah, let's hope for a draw, and she might be first 4.
He's always had a big opinion of her, Mango. He's always thought she was in the top 3 or 4. They broke Shimon's national record there, by the way.
Bred to be fast, and it's a deepish Jewels, but it's still very hard to go past the top 2. Tickle Me Pink is a good filly, and She Reigns is also a very good filly. And Full Noise, the Southerner, was just magnificent when it won fresh up. So there's plenty of depth here, but those top 2 are going to dominate the market because even though Tickle Me Pink's pretty good, I think those other 2 are better.
So that'll be the 2-year-old Ruby. We're about to take a break here on your box seat. When we come back, a significant win for a young trainer doing some pretty good things. We'll see you again shortly. Here is the feature for the 3-year-old Trotters PGG Wrights New Zealand Yearling Sales final. There's the Jules winner from last year, Paramount King in front, Valeria, who won the Hambletonian, and Showgate, who was set for this race, sprung wings over the last 100.
Paramount King, he's dialing urgency now, Dickie, because Showgate is coming quickly, and she'll beat him. Showgate beat Paramount King and Valeria. Majestic Connie's
really interesting story, this. Raced by Cheryl Rasmussen, was trained out of the All-Stars, needed the beach, nearly broke down a couple of times, so they sent it out there to Regan, and he's done a great job with her. He's pulled her out of the Jules. He wanted to make this her grand final, which is the same scenario for Paramount King. Now, Michael, you and I discussed very strange Paramount King coming out of the Harness Jules. Josh Dickey pointed it out to me on Friday night that he hadn't earned enough money.
Yeah, remarkable. I hadn't even considered he hadn't earned enough money, because the problem he had is he came back on such a difficult handicap, racing at Alexandra Park and those good races, that it was just too hard for him
he's only won one
money
race
in the grade. Exactly right. And it does raise the question, if a horse as a 2-year-old wins a Jules and then is to come back as a 3-year-old and you are racing off those really tough marks, should you get invited to the Jules as the defending champion? Some people would think no, some people would think yes, but he's a horse who, winning the Jules last year, has probably cost him his chance of getting into the Jules this year, because he ran second to that race, of course, but it doesn't count.
No different to a Piccadilly Princess last year. Yeah. Same sort of scenario. So I reckon there's a little bit of weight there.
I'm really happy for Regan Todd.
Yeah.
I had a horse which was at the Purdons, which wasn't quite working out, and it went to Regan's place. And his communication skills are very good. He's a young trainer who doesn't take himself too seriously. He's got a good style and humour about him, but he does a really serious job, which is kind of cool. And he'd have a lot of horses and work out there. So when people like Mark and Nat, and that Cheryl Rasmussen is Natalie's mother, when she's willing to entrust Regan with their horse, that gives you an example of where he is heading. So he's a young trainer heading in the right direction in racing, and that beach obviously gives other people some options.
Yeah, let's hear from winning driver Sam Otley.
Well, you've had some big wins in your career, but I reckon that'd be just about as most satisfying, winning that for Regan Todd.
Oh yeah, most definitely, Greg. You can't beat winning big races, and especially for trainers like Regan. He's just sort of coming through the ranks, and he does a bloody good job. So yeah, huge thrill for everyone involved, and yeah, sort of pleased that I redeemed myself from last week too.
Yeah. Tell me about the run, because you got stuck behind a couple of horses you probably didn't want to be, particularly about the 800 metre mark, because Paramount King's no slouch.
Yeah, no, that's right. I thought I had mucked it up a little bit when, I sort of got behind Tim and that, and they were running along a little bit, and then even turning for home. Like you say, Josh's one's a very good horse, and he'd sort of kicked clear, and I was sort of thinking, oh gosh, I'm a long way off here, but I just had to have faith in her and her speed, which I knew she had, and yeah, when we straightened up, I was like, oh, I'm gonna go real close here, and she ducked in a little bit too, and she hung quite bad actually, but. Yeah, she got them comfortably in the end and actually did it very nice.
Yeah, this was her grand final. This is the one that Regan said he really wanted, and the stake level was right up there, so mission accomplished.
Yeah, no, that's right. Yeah, no, huge thrill to win any race, but especially what these bigger ones, and especially for everyone involved. So yeah, no, great result all round.
Yeah, 3 from 8 for her. She's out of the Jules, which I think is a smart move. Winterfell's $1.80 favourite for this. Went to the workouts yesterday, beat Time for Diamonds at Ashburton. Michael Homan 56.3, 26.8. So has clearly been kept up to the mark there.
Yeah, this is most importantly Australian invite out, because Wobbly is coming, and Wobbly's a very, very good horse. Not saying he's better than Winterfell, but Winterfell showed enough with the hitches in the gate, or the unevenness of the gate at Alexandra Park, to suggest you could make a case he's going to get beaten. He's obviously very, very good. Majestic Man's going to be hard to catch around there too, so yeah, but Winterfell will probably dominate that market. Where Wobbly stands could depend on how he scores up. He's a very strange horse, Wobbly, but fascinating story. As a yearling, he was so ugly and his legs were so bad, they were told to put him down. And he's now turned out to be...
Well, he won about 12 in a row at one stage,
exactly, he's turned out to be the best 2-year-old trotter in the last couple of decades in Australia, so great to have him here. Chris Alford's coming with him. His wife Alison trains the horse. I mean,
he's won 6,000 races.
Well, exactly, that adds a lot of glamour to Jules Day.
It does. Let's have a look at Hale Christian winning a great concept, these sophomore races. You know how to qualify for it. Well, you don't want a Group 1 or a race over $100,000. Hale Christian hadn't done that. He'd gone some great races, and this night he was too good.
Hale Christian's gone to the lead. 50 metres to go. Put a length on Alta Maestro on Pat's Delight. And Hale Christian won it by a length and a half. Has beaten home Alta Maestro. Pat's Delight Fun at the Beach. Then Nandolo. Next in Tennyson Bromack, and last in is Naholo.
Well, Paul, he'd been racing really consistently without being able to win, and tonight he's really nailed it.
Yeah, he's gone super. He raced pretty good last week, and I've sort of just changed his workload a wee bit this week, and it seems to have paid off, so really happy with his run today.
What about in terms of the driving tactics? Do you reckon that was preconceived going out there?
Only because I told him. No, I usually leave it up to Blair, and he's out there all the time, but no, he drove him super, and he raced accordingly.
Okay, he's got one more grand final to go, and the speed he showed tonight may well send a little bit of a warning to a few. If he draws 1 to 4 in the duels, he'll have a part to play.
Yeah, I think so, and if he sort of carries his form from today through, you know, it's anybody's chance really, and you know, draws play a big role in around Cambridge, so hopefully we can get a decent draw and get a nice suckle on.
Yeah, the most remarkable thing there was he paid $16. I suppose I was part of that because I thought Pat's Delight and Older Maestro would cross early and that would probably put him 3 back where he was the week before. Sicario trialled yesterday, did get beaten, but they run home in 56 and he only got beaten in next, so he's still right on song for the duels.
You're really happy to see Hanger, Paul Court as we know him, everybody calls him Hanger, get a nice win. It's a good concept, the sophomore, so yeah, beautifully
Older
driven.
Maestro, good run from him.
Older Maestro's an important horse. You need horses like him in the country, horses who can blast the gate and make racing interesting. So I hope Older Maestro comes back as a good 4-year-old. But this horse here will, and you know, Paul is very good at giving his horses a chance to be good horses. He'll put them in races. He's not scared. He's not scared of taking on the All-Stars. This is an intriguing and somewhat strange market because I don't know what to make of Sheriff last time. Sicario has let me down on occasions in the past too. There's a whole bunch of really good horses here, solid.
You talked about Older Maestro. Like he'll be a key figure here if he draws well.
They're important horses. Those horses who fly the gate make our racing more interesting than when they just dawdle around.
And of course O'Hansey, who we see there at $16, well, he's won about his last 4 in a row, so he's absolutely flying. Speaking of flying, 4 out of his last 5 is Alta Orlando, and he...
I can't believe this happened.
Well,
I was watching this on the phone.
You should have been on course. I couldn't believe it either.
And I thought that Eamon Maguire will just jog around and win this, and he didn't.
A length and a half on Alta Orlando and AG's White Sox. Eamon Maguire, a length in front. Alta Orlando, he can find the line at this place and he's going to find the Winter Cup. Alta Orlando rolled Eamon Maguire.
I suppose it was more real when the time of 3:56 in winter, 55, 3:27, 3, but we'll get an insight from Natalie and also Ricky May, because AG's White Sox has a huge part to play on the 4-year-old Emerald, but let's give some plaudits to Older Orlando. He's had all sorts of injury problems since he finished 3rd in the Sires Stakes behind Have Faith in Me and Hug the Wind. He basically wasn't really going to be a racing proposition. He was actually part owned by Neal Pilcher, of course. The Dunn family have done an enormous job with him out at the beach, and well, he's now a bona fide New Zealand Cup prospect.
One of the great stories of the autumn, because he went 13 races in a row without winning one through the summer period. He's come back, and when you talk about horses like Eamon Maguire, that messenger winners, these are horses who are going to be New Zealand Cup factors heading forward, and he just beats them every week. 4 out of the last 5.
Yeah, good to watch, isn't it?
Fantastic story. As you said, he's a New Zealand Cup chance. Is he going to win a New Zealand Cup? You would think he had no chance of winning a New Zealand Cup. But this is a vastly different New Zealand Cup to what it was 8 weeks ago, with no Lazarus and all of his ex-stablemates getting on a plane to the US.
Let's hear about 2nd and 3rd in this race.
Nat, you settled for a placing tonight. Talk me through the efforts.
Oh, look, he ran a good race. He probably stepped a little bit too good and ended up 8 in top. Pulled a little bit too hard, you know, I just think a little bit fresh, and over the 2 mile just couldn't sustain it. Credit to the winner, though. He just went better on the night. So, but, you know, old Eamon will bounce back over a mile, I'm sure.
Ricky, what did you make of AG's White Sox efforts tonight?
Yeah, it was pretty good, man. You know, they run along a bit, to be fair, and he just hung in a bit on the bends, which is a bit unusual for him. So Greg thought he might have been a wee bit underdone, so you'd have to be sort of happy the way he went.
Again, barrier draw is going to be very, very crucial come lunchtime on Friday.
Star Galleria is one of the horses. There's a whole bunch of them who go to mile races this week at Alexandra Park. And it's a really scary night to bet. Be very, very careful at Alexandra Park this week.
Well, Smolder got beaten, didn't he, at this meeting?
Well, Star Galleria's got the outside of the front line, and next week's 150k. And I'm not saying they're going to be pulling him up.
Stephen's driving it himself.
There's a whole bunch of horses who are going to go to Alexandra Park this week, and you need to be really careful about how you approach that meeting. This barrier draw will change everything. If Eamon Maguire draws inside Star Galleria, he'll be favourite. If it's the other way round, that'll change.
And if AG's White Sox draws 1 to 4 and the other two draw poorly?
Yeah. The barrier draws come on lunchtime Friday?
Lunchtime Friday, yep.
Yeah, so...
There's the field Friday night.
Exactly, and Utmost Delights. And
Buster Brady now with Barry Purdon.
Yeah, a whole bunch of horses who have a race worth 10 times more the following week. So, yes, just be careful. Stephen Reed's obviously driving because Tony Hurley, he's still getting over the broken ribs. Spoke to Tony this week. I still don't think he'll be driving at the Jewels. So, maybe there's potential Zach Butcher could be getting on Star Galleria, but that's only a guess.
Let's have a look at Enhine. Wanted to highlight his performance. We'll hear from Ricky May post-race, but this is what Greg and Nina Hope really wanted to see. This horse trotting probably as squarely as he has this season.
Enhine though, 100 metres to go, leads ahead. Lelivra's Gift on the far side. Enhine a neck in front of Lelivra's Gift and 1 over to Moon, and he's too classy. Enhine won it by a length and a half, and he did it well. Beat Lelivra's Gift. 3rd over, 1 over to Moon.
Ricky, what you felt out there tonight from Enhine, was it somewhere near his best?
Yeah, no, he felt pretty good to be fair, and still 2 weeks away the Jewels. I couldn't be more happy with him. He trotted pretty well, really. I didn't take any chances out of the gate, but he can get out better than that. So, you know, just keep our fingers crossed.
Right, around Cambridge, it's a smaller track than Addington. How do you think he'll cope with it?
Yeah, well, I don't think it'll worry him too much. I mean, when he's on his game, he's pretty good. He's probably too strong. So, you know, he's sort of proved that tonight, how strong he is, and I'm sure he'll get better on that run.
Much improved tonight, Blair?
Yeah, look, he's in a happy space today, Matt, and, you know, he's got a lovely run in transit, and, you know, he's been around longer than you and I have, but, you know, he done a good job tonight, so I'm not too sure what's in store for him, but, you know, onwards and upwards.
So that's Blair Orange there, and of course we know 1 over the Moon. We're going to find out in a minute. It's my best bet of the week because he's got a good race, and he's in a terrific race for him this Friday night. Yeah,
he's one of those horses at Alexandra Park you can back with confidence. He falls massively back in grade, mobile mile start. He's got gate speed off the start, everything adds up to him. But this is what we needed to see from Enhine, because Habibi Inter's come forward in the last month, and Enhine was so disappointing in the Road Cup. Here he is though, mobile, short trip, handled himself beautifully. He's now clearly still back at the top of the market for the Jewel.
Michael was $2.30 on Friday before that race, now into $1.80, which is hardly surprising. It really is hard to make a case outside of Habibi Inter. He's the most informed trotter away from Enhine by far.
Yep, it is, and there's plenty of depth here with Smoky Mac and War Machine and Musculus, but they've been getting beaten in easier races. You'll be stunned if either Enhine or Habibi Inter doesn't win this division, but still, we've still got a week and a half, I think, to change.
I want to have a look at Carla's Pixel going around in a feature there from Saturday night at Melton. Didn't win it, Amaretto did, of course, owned by the Grives family, Ashley Grives family. And what did you make of Carla's Pixel here? That's her in the red colours, just dropping off the back of the first two.
Look, they went quick enough and willing to forgive. Very quick horse off the gate. This is 27.60. I don't know what's her go, to be perfectly honest. Round Cambridge over a mile. She is a factor, admittedly against the strong bunch of New Zealand 4-year-olds headed by Bonnie Joan and Utmost Delight. So it might be an easy race to win. There's Kieran Manning with her
familiar salute, isn't it? Yeah.
Exactly right, with Amaretto, who's a very game little mare, finished second at a Victoria Cup, and just goes to show that it was a pretty deep type of race. But Carla's Pixel wouldn't read too much into that being a non-factor for the Jewels. Again, she draws well, she's in play.
Australasian Trotting Championship was won by Fabrication. Yep. Tornado Valley went well, but he had to sit parked, and Father Christmas copped a cheek a couple of times and was out of play. The other Kiwi interest there.
They're just a muddling bunch.
It's just every big race.
Well, Maritime is in Sweden for the Elite Loppet on Sunday, which...
It's got no chance in.
Well, that's a story for another day.
Yep.
But they're just a muddling bunch, the Victorian Trotters, because they very rarely have all the good ones in the same place at the same time. So that pretty much sums it up. Yeah. It's a funny thing, isn't it? We have races this week at Alexander Park on Friday. We have Saturday at Addington, which is a night meeting. Now, you're telling me Blair Orange is going to drive at
Invercargill during the day.
So why is Addington racing on Saturday night?
Because the Hurricanes and Crusaders play on the Friday night and everything's booked out. So that's the main reason there. Last week, we're not going to reflect on our best bets. They were despicable. What about this week for you?
Mile racing in Alexander Park is the go, and I thought Make Way, who's heading to the Jewels. Now, I'm very reluctant to back horses heading to the Jewels who are badly drawn because they might be given quiet runs. It's got barrier 1.
Yeah.
So it'll be in the right place and therefore has a huge jump.
One Over the Moon doesn't have barrier 1, but he's in a race he should win. Apologies, Broody, there's no value there, but after my value tip last week, it was nothing short of embarrassing, so I'm happy to leave that out. What about the Jules preview show next week? Live it will be from 7:30, an hour and a half. We'll have the big fish, Craig Thompson, with all his speed map information.
Matt Cross joining us?
Matt Cross will be at Cambridge as a
Baby
function
brand
there.
on the
Well,
show.
he's on every other show, so we might as well have him on that, and he'll be part of the coverage on the day too. So
12 o'clock on Friday, the fields come out.
That's right.
And then it all starts.
That's crucial. And we've got to work out a $500 bet each, the 4 of us, which you can win as part of the show next week.
How do they win that?
Well, we'll come up with a plan via Facebook, I understand. So, yeah.
I'm not on Facebook.
Well, you can't enter them, and you're not allowed to anyway. Anyway, that's been your box seat this week. I hope you've enjoyed it. See you 7:30, earlier start. We'll preview the Harness Jewels of 2018. Bye-bye.